What's up everybody, it's me E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews, and today we're going to review X-Men Dark Phoenix. Alright, let's do a quick intro. Jean Grey has some really scary powers that could end all life as we know it. The X-Men now have to decide what to do with her because, well, she's crazy. Enough of that, let's get right into the good.
The good.
One of the key components for any X-Men movie is to make sure that you really showcase the mutant powers, and Dark Phoenix does a relatively good job of doing that. It didn't take long for the film to display how the group of mutants were able to not only use their powers effectively, but to also function as a team. The best demonstration of the mutants' powers, and probably the most enjoyable part of this movie, will come towards the end of the film. The third act of Dark Phoenix is definitely the strongest, as it has the most action within the film. This was about the time when the movie really started to pick up its pace and ramp up in the suspense department. Probably one of the better standouts in that regard was Nightcrawler. Similar to Nightcrawler's great scene in X2, he's probably got one of the best scenes in Dark Phoenix when it comes to using his powers that will definitely entertain fans. In addition to Nightcrawler, it was also nice to see Storm use more of her abilities compared to in the previous X-Men Apocalypse movie. I do believe that her powers could have been utilized a little bit more creatively and with more variety, given the fact that she is an incredibly powerful mutant. Nevertheless, she still gets the job done. Now, of course, in order to make those mutant powers really shine on screen, the visual effects really stepped up. The movie didn't feel too cartoonish or animated with all its CGI effects, and it made the mutant powers feel pretty authentic to the characters. I thought that the combination of those special effects also complemented the cinematography in the movie too. A good example of this could be seen in the slow motion sequences that really helped you stay engaged during some of the fast-paced moments in the movie. This was especially beneficial for both Quicksilver and Nightcrawler. Now, when it came to the acting performances, Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy definitely led the way. Both actors were very convincing given their characters' individual dramas and experiences. When they felt internally conflicted, they barely needed words for you to completely understand what they were feeling. That in itself made their character a bit more relatable compared to others. Their performances also complemented one of the major themes of the movie, which was dealing with past trauma. I had hoped that Dark Phoenix would have spent a little bit more time fleshing this theme out, seeing as though it's a very central component to the main characters and the overall plot of this movie. Regardless, I like the fact that they were able to demonstrate the effects of past trauma within most of the characters. There was also a modest attempt to try and use that theme to try and blur the lines of right and wrong ways to handle those experiences. Well, that's all there is. Let's get to the bad.
The bad.
I think the overarching problem in this movie comes from the subpar writing. The writing affected a number of different areas of the film in a negative way. First off, many of the characters' motivations were incredibly rushed and underdeveloped. Some characters would feel one way for a minute and then quickly have a change of heart moments later. While they did try to use some traumatic events to kind of stir up those emotions, there simply wasn't the type of payoff that was hoped for. Again, that was due to rushing into the moments without really taking the time to build up the characters to make those internal shifts. Game of Thrones fans can probably easily relate to this. Next up, the writing completely failed the female empowerment angle that they were really trying to push. For example, the ex-women scene was a pretty cringeworthy one, given the fact that it didn't feel all that genuine. The movie probably would have paid off that moment a little bit better had it actually demonstrated more female-centric scenes to drive that point home. Ultimately, while the intention of trying to have a positive feminist message was apparent, the delivery and execution was poor. As a result, you'll have instances in the movie that have the female characters saying things that sound like it came from a man who's saying things that he thinks will pander to other female feminists. Like I said, it was pretty cringeworthy. Actually, staying in that vein, another victim of the writing were the female characters and actresses. You could tell that writer and director Simon Kinberg really wanted to give the women the limelight, however the female characters were only limited. Jennifer Lawrence's character, Mystique, didn't make very much sense. She would complain about the state of oppression of the mutants when none of that oppression is even displayed in the movie at that time. So it's rather difficult to take her character seriously when we can't even see the problem that she's complaining about. Then we have the character of Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner. For as much as this movie wants you to empathize with her character, it just wasn't working. Dark Phoenix tries to make her just an emotional mess that seems to be a bit contrary to the female empowerment message that it's trying to achieve. Unfortunately, Turner just couldn't carry the lead role in this film, and she was outshined by many of the other supporting characters. To put it bluntly, her performance just wasn't captivating. Now, along with Mystique and Jean, the biggest casualty of the boring writing falls on Jessica Chastain. Her character was one-dimensional and utterly dull. Her character in this movie will really make you question why an actress of her caliber would be regulated to such a basic role. She was given no room to exhibit her range as an actress, and it made her performance underwhelming. In the same way that Jessica Chastain's character was pretty basic and plain, same thing applies to the alien villains that are in this film. Not only were they generic villains, but they were also incredibly inconsistent when it came to fighting them. One minute they're able to withstand a barrage of advanced attacks, and the next minute they're easily taken down. Despite that, the major issue with them is that they're just simply boring characters. Whatever these aliens are, they're probably the most uninteresting characters in the entire X-Men franchise history. Essentially, they end up just being a plot device in the movie that you probably won't care about one way or another. Finally, the biggest disappointment in Dark Phoenix is just that there aren't any real memorable moments. One thing that has typically been consistent in X-Men movies is that there would be some sort of moment in the movie that would really be unforgettable. Just think about Quicksilver's scene in Days of the Future Past or Nightcrawler's opening scene in X-Men 2. Earlier, I mentioned that Nightcrawler did have one of the better moments in the movie, but even that was short-lived. Furthermore, while there were some decent action scenes in this movie, many of them didn't feel like anything we haven't already seen before. There simply weren't any risks taken in this movie to deliver something unique or innovative for the fans to consider just at least close to being epic. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on to the reason.
The reason.
X-Men Dark Phoenix is a lackluster, emotionally empty, and rushed ending to a much cherished franchise that just deserves so much better. Now, this film will get an A for effort because it does try to do a number of things, like try to have a positive female message or deliver on some fun mutant action. It regrettably just doesn't accomplish that goal despite a strong effort. It's hard to also neglect the fact that this film probably would have benefited greatly had it included maybe a female writer or director. This singular vision from writer and director Simon Kinberg was just not a good fit for this franchise nor this final film. The decision to rehash a very rich comic story in the Phoenix Saga in a single movie was nothing short of a disservice to the comic book story itself. I think most comic fans would agree that to really tell a solid Phoenix Saga story, you're gonna have to have a full trilogy to really help flesh out all the characters and the story. Since that wasn't the case here, Dark Phoenix felt like a total cash grab without any regard to what the X-Men franchise should really be about. I mean, we've already seen this in X-Men The Last Stand, and now this movie feels like a bad dream of deja vu. Now, I know I can only speak for myself, but I can't really see this movie having any value in terms of recyclability. With Disney buying out Fox Studios, this film doesn't feel like it provided any level of closure that fans could expect. After seeing this film, it became abundantly clear why Marvel would want to wait 5 years or more until they try to reintroduce the X-Men again. So when it comes to the rating for X-Men Dark Phoenix, I've got to give it a 5.5 out of 10. I think that if Dark Phoenix might have came out maybe 8 years ago, this film probably would have been a lot more solid. And I say that because our expectations would have been a lot lower back then. However, in today's world, the bar has been raised with comic book movies, and so have our expectations. Given the fact that Dark Phoenix is going to be banking on the name recognition of the X-Men brand, I strongly recommend a matinee watch or a $5 Tuesday just to maximize your viewing experience. Plus, if you end up being disappointed, at least you didn't break the bank doing so. Oh yeah, and for those wondering where this movie would rank among the other X-Men movies in the franchise, well, Dark Phoenix is nowhere near the movies like Days of the Future Past, or X2, or X-Men First Class. In my opinion, Dark Phoenix is closer to something like X-Men Apocalypse, so however you felt about X-Men Apocalypse, you could probably expect to feel the same towards Dark Phoenix. When you do get a chance to go see Dark Phoenix, come on back to this video and let me know what did you think about it, and where does it rank for you among all the other X-Men movies. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments down below. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I always appreciate you joining me and watching my videos. If you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.